want to know how to find your unfair advantage so you can stand out from the crowd? If the answer is yes, then listen to this episode until the end. Welcome to episode 142 of Explode Your Expert Biz Show, brought to you by gtex.org.uk. I'm your host, Simone Vincenzi, the Expert Strategist, and this is the podcast for experts who want to become the ultimate authority in their niche while making an impact in the world. And today I have the pleasure to interview Ash Ali on how to find your unfair advantage. Now, before I share with you and I explain what we're going to cover, it's time to talk about the tool of the day. Every now and then, I share with you a tool that I use in my business or that makes my business easier to run, more effective, or it's just simply very cool and I'm a bit of a geek. I love my apps and my tools. And this time, I want to talk to you about Hey Mic, which is a Bluetooth microphone that connects with your phone to record your speaking gigs and live events. Bluetooth microphones, in particular for phones, they are not very known to be reliable and with a good sound quality. However, Hey Mic, I have it, is brilliant. Is not compared yet to the quality is not that very similar to one with a wire. However, with all the Bluetooth microphone that I've tested, is the best one, and you can it feels and looks professional. So make sure you get it. It's called Hey Mic. Again, this is not an affiliate link. It's just something I'm sharing with you that I use so that you can stand out from the crowd. Now, talking about standing out from the crowd, let's talk about the episode of today, which is the unfair advantage with Ash Ali. Now, Ash was the first UK marketing director at Just Eat, which was an IPO with 1.5 billion, and he was listed in the top 250 growth hackers by Goodman Lantern, as well as top 100 Asian tech stars in the UK, and he has over 18 years experience in startups and digital marketing. Ash has spoken to hundreds of entrepreneurs, founders, and his legendary Q&A sessions. He was recently at a TEDx Royal Holloway talking about his new book, The Unfair Advantage. In this episode, we talk about what is an unfair advantage, how can you find your unfair advantage, and how can you use the Miles framework to then identify how you can stand out and be different and attract the right people for you. You can read the interview and the full transcript and get all the bonus resources. Then go to our website, which is www.gtex.org.uk/142. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast right now. And also, if you haven't downloaded yet our Ultimate Selling from the Stage checklist, which is the most comprehensive checklist to create a pitch that sells without being manipulative or sleazy, then download it straight away. You can find the link in the show notes. That checklist is what I use to make more than 7 figures from the stage since I started running events. It is invaluable, so get it. And if you want as well to receive exclusive training and to network with our guests and a vibrant community with almost 2,000 experts, then join our Facebook group, which is Explode Your Expert Biz. You can find it on Facebook. Now it's time to listen to the interview with Ash Ali, The Unfair Advantage. And let's start the music. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Biz Show. I'm here today with the one and only Ash Ali. How are you doing, Ash?
I'm great, thank you, Simone.
So just came back from one of your trips in Dubai, where you were doing it for your book launch and one of your businesses there. Today we are talking about the unfair advantage, which is a big part of your philosophy and what you teach, and also the title of your new book. So we are going to talk about both. But before we get started, can you please tell us a bit more about your background? What's your story?
Sure. So at the age of 19, I decided to set up a website selling shoes online whilst Larry and Sergey were gathering the information around the world and creating Google, I was selling shoes on the internet. And that was in 1999. I did really well with that, and I sold that company and I moved to London. I'm originally from Birmingham, and started working for some agencies in the digital sector and doing lots of little different startups, some that failed, some that were successful, not hugely. And I gained a lot of experience in digital marketing, SEO, PPCs, a lot of hands-on experiences in the actual building of websites and creating traffic flow to them and so on, and building apps and so on as well. And then I left my cushy corporate job, which I had for 5 years, and decided that this is enough. I need to do something again because I'm a natural entrepreneur. And I decided to work with the guys at Just Eat, which is the one of my biggest brands and backgrounds that I'm involved with. So I was there for over 3 years, building the business from ground zero. I was the first marketing director, third senior employee, raised £10.5 million. We IPO'd that 3 years ago for 1.5 billion. I did really well at that, and now I angel invest. I have a book coming out soon called The Unfair Advantage. I have a startup in Dubai called Wash Plus, which is the on-demand laundry app. And I have a couple of other startups which I've seeded over here in the UK. And I'm doing a lot of mentoring and advice work right now for lots of different clients, and a whole range of clients from early seed stage right through to scale-up stage.
Well, that's really fascinating, and I remember we met. I think you met first my wife before we met, because she was hosting a panel where you were invited. I think at the Word is Drop forum, if I remember well.
That's right. Yeah, that's correct.
And then through a networking event, we met, and since then we had a couple of chats, and we said, okay, absolutely, you needed to be a guest on our show. Now, I want to know from you, let's talk about the unfair advantage. What do you mean about unfair advantage?
So, as I was going through my career and through my life, I read, and like everybody else, I was reading TechCrunch and all the newspapers and so on. And I always used to wonder, why are other people successful in their startups and their companies? And I used to read the newspapers, read TechCrunch, and go, oh, okay, this is what they did, A, B, C, D, and then they raised money, and then they did this. And what I realized was that there was a lot of narrative fallacy in the world of startups and success in general. And I wanted to go behind the scenes of that and find out more about it. And throughout my career, I've always realized something, that even though I had a disadvantage, I could turn it into an advantage to myself. Even though I had some disadvantages throughout my career, throughout doing something. And I've tried to create a framework or a lens that I could look at to see how other people were applying concepts that nobody really thought of. So in essence, what is an unfair advantage? An unfair advantage is usually a personal edge. It's something unique about you that gives you a personal competitive edge. Now, that can happen in the world of business, in the world of sports, in the world of music, in any world that you're in. And it's about working from your strengths and knowing what your strengths are and being self-aware of that, making it an unfair advantage for you compared to somebody else. And that's, right, in essence, what the unfair advantage is.
And what inspired you then to write the book?
So I always wanted to read a book where I wanted a practical, realistic framework of life. There's so many theories and so many books out there on how to do stuff, and there's so much stuff online right now how to do X, Y, Z. I think what I found was that as I was going on a speaking circuit and people were inviting me to speak, people loved my stories. People were interested in what I was talking about. And I realized that I was on the stage speaking to these people, and at the end of it, they were lining up to speak to me and asked me questions about their startups, asked me about mentoring, and I never had anything to give them afterwards. And I was like, I need to give these people something about what I'm writing about or what I'm thinking about. And so the book came out of the fact that people were asking me more about me, they were interested and intrigued about my stories, and so I wanted to put it into a framework. But I didn't want to write it and just write something out of the blue and just another self-published how-to type of business book. I wanted to make it something very specific, something helpful and useful so people can apply it to their real life and actually understand my story through it as well, and then actually take wisdoms and experiences from it. So that's the reason why I've written it, the book really. The book is written mainly for the people, for the audience, rather than for myself.
Now, we're going to talk in a minute about how we can find our unfair advantage, because I know that right now there are our listeners that say, well, how can I find mine? Because it's such a crucial aspect of running any business for any entrepreneurs. But before I do that, I want to ask you, what is your unfair advantage?
So I think my unfair advantage is the fact that when I first started, I had nothing to start with. So I was all in. I had nothing to lose. And when you have something to lose, in terms of your degree, if you do a degree, if you've got a cushy job, if you've got a corporate job, if you've got a family and you need to support them and so on, I didn't have any of that to start when I first started. So I became very, very obsessed with my projects and became all in and got all into it. Got into everything in my project. So, for example, I never had any money, so it made me more creative in my way of doing things and lean. Whereas if you've been given money, then it's easy to say, oh, I can just do a billboard advert or a big magazine ad. Whereas having no money makes you more mean and more lean in your thinking process in how you do your marketing and your advertising. So that's one thing that helped me, for example. That's just in the money section. In terms of intelligence, a lot of people say that you have to be intelligent and smart, and a lot of people say to me, I'm not smart enough. What I realized was that at school, people were saying to me, I'm not smart enough. But your brain is very has plasticity in it. So you can actually increase your intelligence and increase the opportunity of you to learn more and faster. And what I realized is it's not about intelligence, it's about learning fast. And that's what I was doing. So my unfair advantage became learning fast rather than being intelligent per se by what the system told me to do. I had no education, so I felt no entitlement. That's the other thing. So my unfair advantage was I had no entitlement. I was all in. I add full value to the world I'm going to. Expertise. I built my expertise. I actually did the 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about, learning my subject, doing it day in, day out. It was something that I did with a passion. I did it myself, rolling my sleeves up and actually working on SEO, working on PPC, understanding how websites are built, doing the stuff, not just talking about it, actually doing it, building websites, failing, I've created hundreds of websites through my career. So learning from that process, that was very important. And then another unfair advantage that came for me was luck and location. For example, I moved from Birmingham to London. If I never moved from Birmingham to London, Birmingham is a very automotive city. It's automotive, factories, retail based. So if I never moved from Birmingham to London, I wouldn't have had the opportunity, right? I wouldn't have that opportunity. And then serendipity, luck, being involved with a startup like Just Eat and having the opportunity to IPO the company. There is a lot of luck involved in that process, but just meeting the founder at the right time and speaking to him and saying, actually, not taking the chance on that and going against the naysayers of who's going to order takeaway online. Actually, a lot of people are. And that was another factor as well. So going against the grain became my other unfair advantage, where everyone else wanted to be cushy and happy.
It seems you have many unfair advantages for people. Some people are saying, well, now he's not fair. He has so many unfair advantages. But you know what? You know what? From every unfair advantage that you had, looks like it was starting, or it was perceived as a disadvantage first.
Correct. And that's the whole element of the book, Simone. You got it, nailed it on the head in terms of what the book is about. The book is about when people from the external world keep saying to you, you're X, Y, Z. What I want people to realize is that you know who you are, and you need to learn to know who you are before the world tells you who you are, and develop yourself from those strengths, right? So you work from the strengths that you have and need to know what those strengths are and develop those. And those can be circumstantial. They can be your circumstances. They can just be your condition. They can just be natural within you, talented, artistic talents and so on. These can all become unfair advantages, but as long as you know how to use them and how to combine the uses of your unfair advantages. The reason why I streamed off so many of those unfair advantages, by the way, is because I've been working on the framework. When I first started, it was like, what's my unfair advantage? And I started thinking, and this is where the framework came from. And so I started to reel off and go, okay, these are my unfair advantages. And it became a lens for me to look at other people's unfair advantages and go, actually, there's lots of them. And it's like a DNA strand. It's not just one thing that will make you successful. It's a combination of things that can make you successful and your circumstances that create your ultimate unfair advantage, which is you as a person, unique, special, completely different in the world. The only one in the world.
Shall we talk about the framework? Because now you got me really curious about. Okay, so what is this framework? Tell me.
So look, I think people make miles of excuses for not succeeding, right? People make miles of excuses for not doing stuff.
Absolutely.
So MILES became my acronym, MILES, and it starts off with a certain way. So the MILES framework that I've created, it's a framework that's set in a practical setting. It's not theoretical. It's very practical. It's something that you can apply in your life and also use as a lens to look at yourself, but also to use it as a lens to look at other people and their success. So what does miles mean then? So the first part of miles, M, means money. So if you've got money, that's a good thing. You can do something with it. You got a cushion. You can start a company. You got a cushion. If you haven't got any money, that's not a good thing, but it also can be a good thing because now you've got fire in your belly to do something. You've got nothing to lose. So it depends on how you see everything in the advantage and disadvantage, right? And of course, when you've got no money and you build something, then you need to get money to accelerate it. So there's certain points where you do need money to make something work, and there's certain points where you don't need money to make something work, which is why startup founders, the first thing they do is put a PowerPoint deck together and go out and try and raise money. When I say, actually, what you need to do is get traction, right?
Get customers.
Most investors. Yeah, get customers.
Get customers first. Get the money you need from the customers.
Exactly. So that's just an example of in money, and there's lots of other things in money, for example. The I stands for intelligence. Now, during my research, I looked at all the top successful entrepreneurs: Evan Spiegel, the founder of Snapchat, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, Richard Branson. I looked at all of the guys and looked at their histories and so on. And what I realized was that these guys are super smart. They are. But they also have something else which is unique about them. They have an emotional intelligence. They have an EQ. And most people don't even know what EQ is, emotional intelligence. Being able to work in a team and with other people is so much more important than just being intelligent and smart just by itself. And so intelligence, how does that work? So if you think you're not intelligent, hang around with smart people like I do, right? you're automatically going to become more intelligent, right? But it's knowing how to work with smart people that makes the difference, right?
You can be more you can be very intelligent, but if everyone around you hates you, then you're not going to go very far.
Exactly. So the emotional intelligence is a really important metric that I think can be developed, and you don't have to be the smartest cookie in the around to be successful, but you do need to have emotional intelligence and learn the element of working with teams and working with people and being having that sense of empathy with people. Empathy, I think, is very important. So that is a natural thing that comes from my upbringing, from my parents. Empathy, feeling for people. So that's the I part of the mile. So you got the money, you got intelligence, I. So what's next? Al, M-I-L. Yes, location and luck. So the third one is Al, location and luck. So where you are makes a massive difference. It makes a massive difference. People say that, you need to be in certain... I know people who've started companies in the UK and they've actually had to go over to Silicon Valley to raise their Series A because that's the only place they can raise it. So where you are makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Right? The money that's being invested in startups, majority, in fact, 90% of VC funding in the UK is in London within M25. There's some in Cambridge, some in Oxford. So where you are makes a massive difference to how you can receive funding, for example, in that sense. Where you are can make a massive difference in who you can hang around with and what access do you have to opportunities. And so in my case, you have to take you have to think about, do you need to move to where you want to be?
Yeah.
And you have to think about that. And a lot of it that comes down to physical. I know the internet allows you to talk, and me and you are speaking right now. You're in a different part of the country, and I'm in a different part of London, right? So, but the fact that we've met in person,
it makes all the difference.
It makes
all the difference. I completely agree with you in this one. I remember when a lot of people are based in the countryside, for example, because as you know, I teach a lot of speakers how to find the speaking engagements.
Yeah.
And to find speaking engagements, location is crucial, because if you live in the countryside where the only people or the only thing that can hear you are like some sheep and some cows, then you're not going to go really far, or you need to move always in the city. So it's all about finding where your skill can be appreciated and where is a request, where there is a demand of your talents, your skills, and also the things you want to do. And I think that a lot of people are, before it was all about old school business, location, right?
Yeah.
But now, as you said, with the internet coming up, people think they are not taking this very seriously, or they don't realize how important actually this is.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I mean, there's a phrase that says being at the right time at the right place. There's a reason for that saying, right?
And
which is why
definitely you were at the right time at the right place.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, one of the biggest reasons why companies succeed is because of timing.
Yeah.
it's a known fact. Timing is so important. If I were to start Just Eat now, it would be a different ball game with Uber Eats and Amazon delivery and so on. So it's actually timing, which is very important as well. So being at the right time, right place makes a difference. You don't control that. Nobody can really control that. So there is an element of luck, which is why I used Al for luck in this equation of Miles' framework. Meeting your partner, life partner, serendipity.
Yeah.
Meeting your co-founders, serendipity. Being in the right place, being in an elevator and someone just bumps into you, serendipity. It's luck is a major factor towards success. If you want to know where luck takes place in people's lives, don't ask them if they're lucky, because no one believes they're lucky. Everyone believes they're a genius. Ask them where the good fortune happened in their life and let them talk about that. That's when you'll really find out how they've had the good opportunities in their life. Being born in the right family can make a massive difference. If I wasn't born in the UK, I would probably be born in Pakistan now. I wouldn't be able to do my internet companies and Just Eat and whatnot right now, right? Yeah. Even going back down to where you were born, right, makes a big difference. That's luck, right? So understanding that and understanding privilege and luck and understanding the element of that is really important towards success. And not beating yourself up all the time when you don't succeed as well. And knowing that timing is something that's something which you can't control as much, and nobody knows that. Even the biggest VCs who invest in the biggest unicorn, billion dollar plus companies. So that's luck. So location and luck. So what's it? So the other one is, so that's Al. Then we've got E. So we've got MIL. We've got E. So E now stands for education and expertise. So how does this work? I didn't go to university, so I don't have a degree, and don't feel entitled towards anything. I go for my job and I just go for it because I add value. I'm good at what I do. Mm-hmm. If I was going to go for it, right? It's not because I've got a degree. So also, when you look at degrees and the way they're teaching degrees and what they're teaching them, it's not really applicable to the real life now. You know, it's like what they're learning is not teaching them the skill sets and the things that they need for the real life. So the education aspect is kind of like losing its effect. However, there's also a caveat to this. There's, once again, everything that I talk about in the Miles framework is a double-edged sword. With education, if you went to Harvard or Stanford, then you're more likely to get funding. You're more likely to have an alumni group. You're more likely to have a network. Therefore, actually, it's useful to go to university because of the brand name.
Absolutely.
So you see how it works? If you've gone to Oxford or Cambridge or Harvard or Yale, then shout about it, because that's actually a brand name that you're utilizing and you're going to get opportunities. If you've just gone to a normal polytechnic university and a degree and you got first
no one cares.
No one cares. Right? Yeah. So there's a double-edged sword to everything that you do. So when you're going to university, think about, do you want to go to top university, or do you want to go to university at all? Or what are you trying to do at university? What's the reason for going to university now? And educating yourself. Is it to get a job? Because that's changing now. You know?
Massively.
So education is this factor as well. Like, you know, I think in the last few years, the millennials and the young students are now realizing that actually we're going to university, we're paying so much money. Are we getting return on investment on these university degrees? Do we get the return on investment now? The value of a degree is changing over time, and it's only now I can say that. However, the caveat is that, look, you know, I still want to send my daughter to Cambridge or Oxford because I know the value of that degree, right? Yeah. I know the value of that going to a university, but it's known, and through the research, the Russell Group universities, the top universities, get the most impact, even in jobs, even in companies. They look at the top universities. When you get a CV, they look at the top university, and the rest are just rejected automatically because there's too many people, sadly. Right?
And this part of your credibility immediately, like your brand, that brand sells you already, because it means that if you completed a course of studies with them, you are already a certain kind of person, because not everyone has the skills, the competence, the endurance, and what it takes to actually complete that cycle of studies, because those universities are renowned to be exceptionally hard.
Sure, exactly.
To complete and to finish.
Absolutely. So it's the cream of the crop, basically. You're going to get the cream of the crop in those universities and colleges, and the alumni group that you get from it is amazing, right? The alumni group, it's a network that you get from that, right? You know, I've done businesses with friends from my school, and that's school, right? because later in life, because when we made friends based on innocence. It was just, we're friends, we like each other, we're friends, not because you got a business or you got this or that. It was so now the relationship is so deep after years and years. They're running business. It's actually, we can do stuff together. So the alumni group makes a big difference. So being in the right place is important. Location, education, alumni groups. This is a very important part. This is what I've seen from the research I've been doing. It's actual facts.
And then the S, what's the S for?
So we haven't finished off the E part yet.
Oh, okay,
E
right. No, it's not finished
You've got
yet.
education, and the last one is expertise.
Right.
You see, a lot of people want to become successful at something, and they don't have the expertise. You know, I see so many people who are speaking, and they don't really have the expertise. You need to have expertise in what you're talking about. You need to know exactly what you're doing and what you've done. You know, I've been in the trenches for 18 years doing digital marketing and internet marketing from the time when the Google just about came out. So I've been in the trenches and I know pretty much everything there is around that. And there's new stuff always coming about. But the trunk knowledge, the main knowledge always exists. It's always the same. We need to get more people to our website. Right? How do we do that? Right? It's the same thing, right? We
Same
need to get more
thing.
people to
Didn't change much.
It's not changed, but the fundamentals remain the same. But it's deep knowledge. And I think a lot of people don't have deep knowledge. They skim over books. They'll read some blog sites and they think they become an expert. That's not what an expert is. My advice is to become an expert at something is you have to put your own skin in the game and do stuff. For example, a lot of times when I was working, I was still doing side projects. I was building my own websites. I was learning, building my own website, still doing stuff myself. I think that's really important. I was advising. I was helping my colleagues who were in business with their own websites. I was always doing stuff, building my expertise up outside of what I was doing. It's not just a 9-to-5 job and off you go. So build your expertise and have lots of different areas around building your expertise. Don't just sit on your laurels and think that this is the one thing. And ideally build expertise in one core function, but also have 2 or 3 other core functions that you can overlap with. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So don't just become, when you're an entrepreneur, for example, you start off with very generalistic skills.
Yep.
But you need to have one core superpower skill, right? But everything else can be generalistic. But if you have one core superpower skill, then you can build on top of those skills and you can hire the right people around it. But you need some skills in something. My skill was growing startup companies, whether it's getting traffic to your website, visitors to your website, getting downloads, whatever it was. It's all about lead generation, all about growing. It's marketing, sales. That's what my expertise was, marketing and sales. Bottom line is getting customers. And everybody needs customers. It's just applying it in a different way. So that was my skill set. So that's how I built my expertise. And I did it through digital, which was a much scalable, more faster way. So build your expertise. Your expertise can really help you get to where you want to get to. Contribute, build your expertise, write blogs, write articles, do stuff in your subject matter, create, some kind of distinction around who you are with your expertise. Showcase your opinion, have an opinion, be different. I'm contrary to a lot of things. Your wife has probably told you that on the panel debate, I'm contrarian. I pretty much.
She told me.
Right? I disagree with a lot of stuff that's being said. That's because I've got an opinion. Because I know I built my opinion over time, and I have my reasons for it.
And also, you built your opinion over the experience as well, not just by when you read the information. Most of the time, they're the same information out there that are
correct.
But when you are building when you are doing, then you have a much deeper understanding of the entire subject, which allows you then to have a different or better or a different opinion. So that's I think why is really important. So you're saying about building the expertise is not just about putting the hours in, but also about showcasing it, because there are these 2 levels. There is the putting the hours, but also making sure that other people understand that you're putting the hours and that you're expert in that, because otherwise only you will know that you're experts and no one else will know.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Showing people that you're an expert, but you can show people through results, right? I think the key thing is to share. Sharing and contributing to the sector or the industry that you're in is really important. I mean, I write articles, I do LinkedIn articles, I do podcasts like this, for example, to share knowledge, to share expertise. And I think the good thing about doing that also is it gives you an ability to bounce back your ideas and give you feedback loops that you can help create and form your ideas better. I mean, the Unfair Advantage book that we've written has actually come about after me beta testing so much content out in the marketplace. It's not just, I'm going to write a book. It's actually going out, speaking, seeing what people think, and actually creating something that people can get and understand and also value. So you need to get feedback loops on your ideas. Don't be scared to share ideas. I think that's the biggest problem. With your expertise, create new ideas. Don't just regurgitate stuff. That's the key thing there. And then the final one is S.
Yep, we got the S
Status.
now.
Status. So now we got it. Status. We've got MILES. Status.
Tell me
so
more
status,
about status.
What is status? So status is the way you look, the car you drive, the watch you wear, the place you live, the school you went to, the university you went to, the companies that you worked at previously, ex-Googler, ex-Microsoft. Whenever you see an article on Google in the TechCrunch, you always say ex-Googler raises money. Why do they need to mention Googler? Because Google is a brand. So that's kind of part of your status that you created as part of your brand status that you created. So a lot of people perceive status as a first thing that they see you as. But there's also a second part to the status, which is what you see yourself as, your internal status. And I talk about this in the book, that actually the reality is true, that when you drive a nice car, people are going to perceive you in a certain way. When you're wearing a suit, they're going to perceive you in a certain way, right?
Absolutely.
Now, I've been through these experiences myself. If people want to know this, I urge you to wear a suit one day and not wear a suit another day and see how people treat you differently. It sounds crazy.
Completely different. Completely
Right?
different. There was this study as well that I found fascinating. That if you see, sometimes you are the zebra crossing and there is
Yes.
the red light,
Yes.
so you cannot pass. But sometimes you look around and there are no cars, and there is one person that generally goes across. Now, if that person, there is a study that if that person is not dressed well, very few people will follow. However, if the person that crosses, even with the red light, is dressed smart, with a nice suit, nice polished shoes, and so on, the majority of people actually, we cross even with the red light.
It's crazy, right? That's
Yep.
just crazy. And that's just subconsciously. A lot of this stuff is at a cognitive bias, a subconscious level that we have, and how we judge people and judgment factors. But it's important to know that you represent your brand effectively as a speaker, who you are, and so on. I was speaking to some colleagues recently, and I was like, I need to get back in the gym because when the camera's on the side view of me when I'm doing a speaking gig, my tummy's sticking out, and I'm like, that just terrible. It doesn't look good, and that's part. And I need to be part. My brand needs to look like I look after myself, which I try to do, but obviously there's certain times where and the camera makes you look fatter than you normally are, right? So there's things that you need to control and try to be aware of, that people will judge you for that, and be aware of that, both on a perception level, but also on a level of reality as well.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. I've traveled so many different countries around the world, and I've just come back from Jakarta now, and I was telling them about my book, and automatically they were bowing down to me. I'm an author. In Jakarta, having a book means you're a doctor, you're someone really special. Perceived value in that country.
Yes.
Because they don't understand self-publishing and all this other stuff right now, right? That's still so new for them. If you've got a book, then that means there must be something special about you, right?
Yeah.
Even though nowadays a lot of people can just write books. So it's the way people perceive you, and how you can't control a lot of that, but you can actually understand that there's going to be times where you'll see why certain people become more successful than others. It's the same thing with social media, right? The way you look, the pictures you take, the images, a lot of stuff is staged, unfortunately and sadly. And the staging of it is very important. And the reason why status is very important to look at from the miles frame is so that you can see as a lens to other people. That's the key thing around it. Because I used to feel disempowered. I used to feel this like, oh, well, I know more than that person, but they just look slick, they speak slick, and they have a network, and I don't, but I know 10 times as much as that guy. Why am I not in his position doing what he's doing or she's doing? And there's lots of other elements to it. So even though people say, oh, you scoop out your content and you've got to be an expert, that doesn't even take a planning. That wasn't even consideration for these people to decide who these people are, right? So even communicating, even your accent makes a difference.
Yeah.
You probably know this, Simone, right? Your
Absolutely.
accent makes a difference. People will judge you based on your accent. It makes a massive difference. So there's a lot of status driven, and no one wants to talk about it, but I do. I want to talk about the white elephant in the room.
It's crucial. I remember I used to be a hippie before. That was part of my past. I used to be an activist.
Right.
I actually was one of the people that I don't know if you remember the Occupy movement.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, the
Right.
tents and stuff in the central and yeah.
Exactly. So I was one of the people actually that started the Occupy
really?
movement,
Okay.
and I camped there for a few months.
Yeah.
And I was a bona fide hippie. And literally, when I decided to start my own business, and I had my shift in consciousness, and I said, okay, enough for the activism part. Now it's time for me to play a different game. But I was still going around dressed like a hippie. And I remember someone came to me, it was a dear friend, and he's an image consultant. And we were talking that I was struggling to find clients and the business wasn't working well. And he told me, listen, because before my head was completely shaved, completely bald. I didn't have the goatee. I used to wear this long scarf and trousers with flowers. Literally, you had to see me there. And he said, stop wearing those dresses, put on a suit, grow your hair, grow a goatee, and then you will see your business growing. Literally,
And?
it took me 3 months for physical changes to happen.
Right.
My business quadrupled.
There you go. Right.
Is so
That's amazing, right?
Right now, that's something I say to every client I have. Look the part
Look the part and feel the part.
and feel
Look
the
the
part.
part and feel the part. I think that's the key thing. Look
Yeah.
the part, feel. It's brilliant. What a great story that you have there, Simone, about yourself.
But I'm glad that person was so honest with me, because there is this old thing about be yourself and be authentic, and but it doesn't mean that you need to be dressed like a Trump if you want to get some business, because wearing a nice suit and a nice watch or a nice I don't know, if you're a woman, you wear a nice dress, will open doors that otherwise you would just need to explain yourself and build such a stronger level of relationship before those doors can be open, which the whole process can just be shortcut.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So that's part of status, one element of status. There's a lot more to status, but that's pretty much what it is. But it's usually also the other part of it, which is the story that you tell yourself.
Okay.
And that's important. So you see some people and they tell themselves the story, I'm not good enough, I'm not like this, I don't have that, I'm not tall enough, I'm not strong enough, I don't have the right hair, I don't have the... That is also part of the status part of what I talk about in the book, that actually if you change those elements, that you're unique, you're not special, doesn't, you're different, doesn't mean that you're not going to be as valuable to the world as other people who have certain things and traits that make them suit that role or suit that opportunity. So I think that's important as well, to get to understand. And everybody, I think, once in their lifetime has felt this thing called the imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. The imposter syndrome, the feeling of not truly feeling that they should be there. And that usually comes from the story that you tell yourself. And we all have it. Everyone's had it in their life. Even the top executives that I've met have had this imposter syndrome. And I'm like, that's just crazy. Like, we look up to you and you're like amazing. And you have this imposter syndrome, right? So I think it's an element of imposter syndrome. And it might affect more people than others. And as I got over this imposter syndrome, that actually, look, I might be a second generation immigrant in the UK, but I can still add so much value to the UK, my country, the where I live and what I do here. I think that's important to do, kind of portray and bring across as well. So actually, you belong here. This is you.
This interview has been incredible, Ash. I'm looking forward. When is the book going to be out?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, we're going to do. Funnily enough, I'm going to do 2 versions of the book, and the reason is because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people are busy, and I don't have time to read a 3 or 4 hour book in one sitting or try to do it over time. So what I'm doing is I'm launching a booklet version of the book, which is going to give you everything that I just spoke about now and more detail. And it's going to give the first 30 pages of the book, which is going to give you enough to apply the concept of the Miles framework in your life straight away. And there'll be more stories. And I'm doing a lot more talks as well. So you're invited to all the talks and a book tour that I do with it as well. So I'm going to give you what I call the TED version of my book. So the big idea in 18 minutes read, hopefully.
How can people get the book?
Sure. So the book is going to... The book is going to be available soon. The booklet version will be very soon. But the best way to get a copy of the book would be to go to theunfairadvantage.co.uk. That's theunfairadvantage.co.uk. I'm sure you'll share the links.
Yeah.
And you put your name and email address into the early interest list. and we'll actually send you a copy of the book in a PDF format, and you can also buy it on Amazon. It'll be available to buy on Amazon, and maybe I'll get some signed copies out to some of the people who sign up to the list as well. So that's one way. And the other way is LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Ash Ali. I'm very fond of being on LinkedIn because I share a lot of professional stuff on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of my network is on there as well, so you can see who I'm connected with and so on. And then also Twitter, Ash_Ali. You can reach out to me directly. I'm always fond of listening to people and getting their feedback about my Miles framework and how it applies to their life.
I think
and the
it's
changes
brilliant.
it can make in their life.
I think this Miles framework is brilliant, and it's definitely going to change a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of lives, because when you're talking, sometimes it's very difficult and not practical to find what makes you unique. But by having this checklist, you can actually identify what are the elements that makes you unique. So then when someone asks you, like I asked you before, what is your unfair advantage? Boom, you're in. You know what to say because you have the framework in mind. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the framework that I'm sharing with you right now is like when you look at the unfair advantage, when you asked me, the unfair advantage is kind of applicable to what you're doing. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. If I said to you that I want to start another food-based business, I have an unfair advantage because I have knowledge of Just Eat. So your unfair advantage is unique to the situation and the circumstance that you apply it to. Mm-hmm. Generally, you have it to your personality, who you are as a person, how you've been built up, or your DNA, your structure, how you think, your mindset, and so on as well. The foundation to all of this is mindset. But then when you're applying it to your startup, the first thing I always ask every entrepreneur when I angel invest, when I look at a startup is, what's your unfair advantage in this startup?
Yeah.
Everyone's got his unfair advantage. We've all got them. But what is it in this startup?
Feeling that this can be a part 2 of the show. How do you put the unfair advantage? This can be a part 2 because we had part 1 on the individual, part 2 on the business. So guys, make sure that you get the book, get on that waiting list, on the priority list, because as you can see, this will make a huge impact in your life and in your business. Ash, has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much.
Great, Simone. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
And for those of you that are listening right now, thank you for listening or watching. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and to your favorite podcasting platform so you don't miss any other episode. So click that subscribe button right now. And let us know what is that you enjoyed the most about this interview. Let me know with a review on iTunes or other platforms, or let us know in our Facebook group, Explode Your Expert Biz, which right now I'm going to add Ash, so then you can ask him any question also when the interview comes out. Right now, it's time to go for me and Ash, so thank you very much, and remember that together we grow exponentially. Bye for now.